Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, where ordinary heroes tell extraordinary stories during unique and never been heard before conversations with your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Hilary's unique listening and way of asking questions results in conversations that aren't usually talked about, so you can create the life that you really want but are afraid you can't really have. We are demonstrating the greatness in the human spirit and creating a world where we all reclaim our birthright of joy, happiness, purpose, and passion. Now, here's your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Xavier Roman, and he is a healer, an entrepreneur, and a father, and I think you're going to truly love him. Welcome, Xavier.
Hey, how are you doing, Hilary?
I'm good. All right. Good. And he's had a near-death experience, which he's going to talk to us. But first, he's going to tell us about his childhood. Where would you like to start with that?
Well, we could start, as usual, where it all began. I was 5 years old, and when I was 5, I had walked past this corner, as I do frequent and often as a little kid. It was right across the street from the park that I would always go to. But at this certain moment, a child and a mom, they were crying across the street, and I was on the other corner from them. And so I'm looking at them, and, at 5 years old, when, you see an adult crying, you're like, I was a little bit scared, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like, what happened? What's going on? And so forth. So the child was hugging the mom around her hips, and, he was crying too. And I could just see her looking around. She was crying too. I was like, man, why are they both crying? Like, oh my God, like, I got to get help. I got to, figure out a way to help them and so forth. And I couldn't help them. I couldn't, we didn't have cell phones, couldn't call 911 or anything like that. So I was like, how could I help them? And then I said,
you were 5.
Yeah. I was 5 and a little scared, So then I'm like, something just said, okay, I'm going to help them. And I'm going to do this ridiculous thing. And I just closed my eyes, and then I put my head down, and I felt this white light come around my body. It was strange at the moment. I just felt this white light coming around my body because I could see it in my eyes as my eyes are closed. And then I felt that ray go towards them, and I've seen them surrounded by the white light. And then I opened my eyes, and I looked across the street, and then a couple seconds later, the mom, she stopped crying, and she just started looking like this, like almost like, oh, what is that? And the kid, he let go of his mom, and he started looking around like this. They both had like blank expressions, like, and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, did I do that? Like, no, like, did I do that? Like, I seen them cry and stop, and like, no, I could have did like, wow, like, hey man, am I a superhero? These crazy 5-year-old thoughts were going through my head. Am I a superhero? Like, how did I do that? Like, who told me to do that? What made me do that? All these questions were going fast, like super fast. I started looking at my hands, like, let me see, what's squeezing, like, let me see, there's something in there, and I'm touching my face, my head, like, what's going on, And then they just stopped, and I just kept on looking across the street, and she looked at me, but then she was still looking around like, like there's something else, going on. And then I just walked away, and then I was just thinking, like, how did that happen? Like, what? Like, maybe it wasn't me. Like, maybe it wasn't me. No, maybe it wasn't me. But
So what happened? Did you ever go talk to them?
No, I never did. But I walked home, and then I said, well, who am I going to tell? I got to tell somebody this. Like, oh, that was cool. I got to tell somebody this. and this and that. No, but what if they make fun of me? What if they tell me I'm lying? What if they think I'm crazy of all things? And and then I started running, and then I was like, man, am I gonna be able to fly? Like, you see how fast I can run, and maybe the momentum. I didn't know the word momentum at the time, but like I was like, maybe if I run real fast, I'm gonna start flying. But yeah, it didn't help. But then, as I got closer home, I said, I'm not gonna tell nobody. No matter who I tell, they're gonna say you're crazy. Blah 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 blah. And so, time went on, and then I remember going to the doctor's office not too long after that. And then it came back to my mind, and I said, wait, if I help that lady and the kid, maybe this will help for somebody who might be sick, but I got to see that they're sick. So I'm looking for that person who's hurting, who's got the grimace face, and who's like, holding something, body part, stomach, something like that. And I found somebody. And I seen that person right across, and then he had been like doing one of these things like like that, and I look at my mom to see like, okay, she looking at me, okay, I don't want her looking at me. She had been glued on something else, and so I said, okay, now's my chance. And so I did the same thing. I looked at the person, and I closed my eyes, and I put my head down, and I started feeling that white light again, and then I put it right on the person. And then after a little while, I opened my eyes, and then the person's just like, they're doing this, and then they're like, they start looking, they start touching his stomach area, like, I'm like, oh man. And I seen him get up, he stood up, he started doing this and that, and then he stood for a while, and he didn't have a grimace. He didn't look bad no more.
How old were you then?
I was 5.
You were still 5. Okay.
Yeah, I was still 5.
Pretty soon after. Okay.
Yeah, because as a kid now. Yeah. So as a kid now, I'm at the doctor's. I'm gonna try some. I want to try this on somebody,
okay.
so that I could really see.
Yeah.
And the guy felt better, and I kept on going to doctor's appointments. So if it wasn't for myself, I would ask my mom, hey, can I go to the doctor with you? She'd look at me like, I thought you would hate the doctor. Yeah, but I don't want to stay home. Can I go with you? Yeah, okay, come on, let's go. And so then I would keep on doing that to people. And at times I would see people get up, go to the reception front desk, and I would just look to see what they were going to say. Hey, I'm going to leave. I can reschedule. Say, hey, I thought you were this and that. Like, no, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I'm just going to reschedule. I really got something that came up that to do and so forth. And I'd be like, yes, it worked again. And I would keep on doing it. And so forth. So like, even if my mom said she had to go visit a family member at the hospital, I'd be like, can I go to the hospital? Like, once, let me go. And at times she would say no, and at times, I would get to go. And
so would you heal? Could you heal your own family members?
You know what? Let me say, later on in life, I still have not. I was like in my 30s, maybe 40s, but 30s or early 40s. I remember still not telling nobody in my family what I do, what I could do, and so forth.
30s? Oh my, 25 years?
No. And then you just listen to the small story. Okay. I still didn't tell them after that. I remember my sister, she was real sick, and she was laying with my mom in the bed and so forth. And then I was like, hey, what's wrong with her? My mom's like, hey, like she's not feeling good. Everything hurts and this and that. I'm like, Mom, don't you think you should get away from her? You're going to get sick too. Like, ugh. And then my sister's like, oh, be quiet, this and that. I'm like, okay. I said, hey, you want to feel better? She's like, shut up. She, at that point, she was feeling so bad. She didn't want to hear nothing. She didn't want to hear me and this and that. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, for real. I said, do you want to feel better? And she's like, duh. She's like, who doesn't? Like, whatever. Yeah, whatever, just go. And I'm like, okay, stay right here. And so I come out the room and I sit, uh, on the other side of the room and I do the same thing. And then I get up and I go back over there to her and I stand back by the doorway and I said, well, first of all, I kept quiet for a little. I just stood there so I could see, what she's going to do and so forth. And then she started watching TV. And then, then she starts looking at what my mom's looking at and she starts joining her and they're laughing at something like this and that. And I said, hey, how do you feel? She's like, oh, yeah, I feel better. I said, you feel better, huh? I says, well, you feel any pain or like, what's up with your symptoms and this and that? And she's like, yeah, that's strange. That's weird. Like, I feel better. And my mom's like, see, he told you he's going to make you feel better, And then, I'm like, yeah,
So your mom knew? Did your mom know?
No. My mom was saying it in the sense, just to kind of shut me up because she wanted to get on with what she was watching. So it's just like, see, okay, he said it. Okay, shut up, this and that. And so my sister's like, wait, did you do something? What did you do? And I was like, oh, not, just a little something I did so, I could, make people feel better. And she's like, you're weird. She's like, you weird. She's like, I said, well, you feel better though, right? Isn't that the whole goal and so forth? She's like, she starts laughing like, shut up. You're weird. Like, get out of here. Like, you're such a weirdo, this and that. I says, yeah, but, you got better though, right? She said, what'd you do? I says, oh, never mind. I says, Lousy, feel better. Okay, I gotta go. And then I just left. I left it at that. And, they never connected nothing. They never connected the dots. And that was just the end. You weirdo and this and that, so forth.
And were you still 5? Were you still 5 at that?
No. I was like somewhere around my 30s.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
this was later. Okay.
Yeah, maybe early 40, but because you asked, like, did I ever help my
But
family?
they never got it. Okay.
No, they never
doing this alone. Okay.
Yeah. So they never got it. But as a child, I just like would do it like to people. Like if I seen somebody that didn't feel good, didn't look good, or this and that, I really like doing it to help people out. But I still wouldn't want to talk about it. As time went on, I can remember being in high school, and I used to have to get off one bus and connect to another bus, walk a half a block, so then I could get another bus so I could go home. So it's 2 buses, and I went up to the corner, and at our bus stops they had like this plastic thing, so the rain wouldn't hit you. And so I seen this guy going. He's getting ready to sit down, and he had a limp and so forth. Looked pretty bad, and I was just like, "Ugh." So I sat by him, and said, "Hey, I see you got a a bad limp or leg or something like that." And I says, "Hey, I think I could help you." He's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I could help you." He says, "How?" And I said, "Look, I want to put my hand. If you want to give this a shot," I says, "I won't even have to touch it." I says, "I'm going to put my hand nearby your leg where you're telling me where it hurts at by your knee." I says, "And I'm going to close my eyes real quick, okay? For a little while. And then when I'm done, I'll go ahead and I'll put I'll take my hand off." And he says, "Okay. All right. It's not going to take long." And I said, no, it won't take that long." And so then I go ahead and I take my hand off. And then I move my hand and then I open my eyes. I says, "How do you feel?" He says, I feel okay." I says, "Is there pain in there?" He says, he's just, while he's sitting down, he starts moving his legs. He says, "No, it feels okay." I said, "Well, let's do this. Why don't you stand up so we can really test this?" I said, "Stand up and walk around a little bit." And so he stands up. and he starts walking, but like he's a little bit trying to be cautious and so forth. And I say, hey, just take some more steps, go around the thing, and so forth. And he starts walking better, and he loses his limp and his pain on every step and so forth. And he just looks at me like, yeah. He says, yeah, I feel better. He says, yeah, this he says, man, he says, what's going on here? Like, hey, Will, what is this? And I was like, no, it's nothing. I says, just come, just sit down, like just sit down and relax. I just wanted to make sure you were better. He's like, hey man, like what's your name? Who are you? I said, well, my name is Xavier. And he says, no, where do you live? What's your? He's like, give me your mom and dad's phone number. I want to talk to them. Oh, what's your address? This, that. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I was like, whoa, hold on. I said, look, I says, we're not going to do all that. Like, I just wanted to help you out and so forth. Like I don't include my mom or dad or anything like that and my phone number. I says, I'm just here to go ahead and try to help. He's like, no. He says, come on. He says, maybe you can help me out later, this and that. I says, you know what? I gotta go. But hey, I'm glad to have helped you and this and that. And so I had to leave and go to another bus stop to take the bus, which is another route that I could have took, and I just walked away and so forth because he was really on me. Yeah. And even at that time, I was like, no, we're not sharing this with nobody. We're not talking about it. As much as I would like to help him more, like he said down the road, I was like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. And then I just left and I went to the other bus stop, and yeah, he was better though. Yeah, he was better.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how that was the story. That I vividly remember every time I talk about this. So,
yeah. So how old were you then? With him?
I must have been like 16, 17. I think 16. Yeah, I think it's 16.
You kept doing it and not telling anyone.
Yeah, I kept doing it and not telling anybody. Yeah.
You didn't tell your friends?
No, those are probably the last people I was going to tell.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I had to see them every day, in school, high school and so forth. I was like, nah, they're not going to.
Well, how was it to have this secret?
How
did you feel about that?
You know what? The only thing that would worry me is if I'm doing something, and then if I'm doing it, with intention, and then if I'm around somebody that knew me, if they were looking at me like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. Like if I just like put my head down like that. Like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. Like, oh, I got some in my eye. Like. I would also say, hey, I just got a headache, and so forth. Like, I just need a moment. And, at the same time, I seen somebody who's, in my area, and, I really wanted to help them and so forth. And I would just do that. Like, yeah, headache, I get it. And I wouldn't get headaches. So I don't get headaches.
But did it ever not work?
Yeah, there was times it wouldn't work. But there's like very few times it wouldn't work. And I'm like, I wonder, even now to this day, I would say like about 85, 90% of the time it works. But when it does it, that stays with me. I mean, like it's so annoying for me. It's real annoying. And, I try my best, and then I always wondering like, how did that not work? Like, how did that not work? Like, oh my God, I got to get them on, sometimes I'll email the person back, or I have my assistant, hey, call them back, like, no, I'm not going to go ahead and no, this is going to work. I need to get them back on, like this, that, so forth. But, like I said, there's real small instances that, they'll stick out in my head and they'll just bother me, for a while because, I really want to help them out.
So, okay. So you were in high school. Then did you go to, what happened after that?
Yeah. I went to college.
Where'd you go? Where did you grow up? I forgot to ask you where.
I grew up in Chicago, Southside Chicago. Right. Yeah. Okay. Southside Chicago.
So then where'd you go to college?
So I went to college at Chicago State University. I went to actually three colleges: Chicago State, and I went to school in Ohio. And I also went to school near Chicago, about an hour and a half away, by Northern Illinois University, which was I went to play baseball at Kishwaukee College. So as I went to,
What were you studying?
you know what? I was trying to do education. That was my thing. To be a teacher.
Oh,
Yeah, to be a teacher. Mostly physical education, but then that moved towards a little bit physical therapy. I'd still like helping people, so that's where the physical therapy came in.
Yeah.
And I didn't connect nothing. I swear to God, I didn't connect nothing with the physical therapy, but I just moved one way and moved away from another way. And and as I think about it right now, because I think you're the first one. I mean, I've done many interviews. It just hit me right now that, wow, I switched to physical therapy without knowing. I never knew that how I made the switch until right now, this moment. Wait, oh, okay, something made me go that way. Yeah, something made me go that way and so forth. Um, and I could recall, now that I think about it, since you mentioned it, like let's say if I was taping someone's ankle or someone had an injury and we had to tape it up, um, I would not think about helping them, but my hands were on them. And, as if I was taping this and that, and then, I'd try to, hey, where's it hurt? Right here, right here. Oh, this and that. This. Oh, hold on, hold on. And I really thought, now that I think about it, right now at this moment, by rubbing their muscle out, like, hey, maybe this will, I don't think it'll help it, but like, hey, how does that feel? I'm like, hey, wow, it got better and this and that. And until right now, this moment, that's how they were getting better. I didn't even think, because that's not going to help for somebody with a real injury just by going like this and like, hey,
you didn't connect them? Wow.
getting connected until this moment right now. I didn't connect. After all these interviews that I've done, I never thought about that until right now. You mentioned college. I didn't think about that. Wow.
Wow. So you did physical therapy, not just in school. You actually got out and did it?
No. Just in school. It was just in college. Yeah, I was in college. I took classes to become a physical therapist and so forth. And since I was always in the gym and those are my classes, and most of my classes were like in the phys ed building, and so forth, so that's probably why they're getting better. And I thought that I had to close my eyes. But I guess that worked. Oh, I feel better now. Oh, you don't got to tape it. Like, hey man, this and that. But I didn't connect the dots until right now. But thanks for bringing it up. Thanks for bringing that up. I would have never thought about that.
Wow.
Okay, cool,
Right.
cool.
So what did you do after that? So you were still healing, closet healing.
Yeah, but right. But while I was in college, I was focused on baseball because I
So you were good?
Yeah,
Good
I
at
was,
baseball?
I was a scholarship player and so forth.
Okay.
My
What
last year,
position?
I played second base. Sometimes they moved me to shortstop and then kept me at shortstop. So I'd go bounce back and forth.
Cool.
But my ultimate position was second base.
Okay.
So I was just focused on that. And so I left all the other stuff alone.
And why did you switch schools? Because of baseball?
Definitely because of baseball. Because scholarship opportunities were presented here. If I don't like it here, then I don't want to be here. Coaches get to transfer and they get to get contracts. So hey, I'm going to transfer too, just like that. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's something that I did.
Okay. And then more.
Yeah, and then I went on, and I could recall when I was 30, my mom, probably you can see it on the website. My mom, she had a automobile accident. I 30. I was around 30. I was in my 30s. So this was 2005. So that's like 19 years ago. So my mom got into an automobile accident, and it was a real bad one. It was a bad one. And when I got that call, I had to rush to the hospital. Me and all my family were there, and they told us how bad it is and how bad it could be, and everything is moment to moment. She could not make it. She could make it because there was impact to her brain, so she had a brain injury, a traumatic brain injury. Was how it's medically noted, and so you know, everybody was worried and so forth. And so I can recall when they came in, they brought a priest in to read your last rites, if you want to call it. And so they wanted the family to be around the bed, as the priest came in and said it. I was like, oh wow, this is serious business now,
Yeah.
And like
Not kidding. We're
Yeah.
not kidding. Yeah.
But I had asked myself, if you want to call it, like, hey, is this that bad? And then I got a sense of a feeling like, it's bad, but she's not going nowhere. It's bad. This is gonna be a long process. That's all. It's gonna be a long process of healing and so forth. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so as they did the prayer, I didn't participate. I was just like, okay, then I gotta participate, and this and that. Because usually people will participate if they really believe, or if they believe that okay, we can pray and maybe this will get her better. But that's not the kind of prayer it was. It was more like like a last rites kind of prayer, or whatever they call it, and so forth. And so I was just like, okay, So they're doing the prayer, and I'm just looking around like, I'm gonna stand in the back so they don't think I'm disrespectful and so forth. But we're around the hospital bed, so I'm just like, okay, come on, let's get this over with. Come on, hey, I gotta, go outside and so forth. And so I felt good from there on. So I can remember.
Did you do your healing? Why didn't you do your healing?
No, not yet. Yeah, no, not yet. I mean, it was so intense. Like, if you can imagine, like, you see your mom laying there in the hospital bed, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Right now, she's gonna go on for this. We're gonna induce her in a coma because the brain is bleeding and this and that. But anything could happen at any moment. It's so much of this and that." And I'm like, okay, but I knew internally they're like, oh, it's gonna be all right. She's not going anywhere. She's not leaving or anything like that. It's just gonna be a long process. And so then I can remember going into the waiting room. Me and my family were sitting down, and I just had a book, and I was just like, just reading a book. They my family was sad, and there's some watery eyes and so forth. And I was just like, oh no, like, not in a mean way, but I was just nonchalant about it, because I already knew. I internally knew that, like, it's okay. It's okay. This is just a long process. That's what this is. So if you want to get sad for a long process, you could choose to do that. But I was like, no, like, why would I'm not gonna get sad. I'm sorry she's in this position, but like, once I get in there, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna help her out and so forth. And so I remember one of my sisters asking me, she was like, okay, I don't know, there's something, about you, but like, do you think she's gonna be okay? I said, oh yeah, she's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay. I says, there's a process she's gonna go through. It's gonna be kind of long and so forth. I says, but she's gonna be okay. That's why I'm not worried. Even though the visual looks worrisome, and the bleeding and this and that looks worrisome. I said, but she's okay. I says, I guarantee you. She's like, okay. If you're not gonna worry, I'm not gonna worry.
Wow.
And she's like, I trust you. And I was like, and mind you, there's 5 of us. And then I was like, yes, now there's really nothing to worry about, but there is a long process with this whole thing, with rehabilitation and what she's going to go through and what we got to go through, and being here at the hospital every day and so forth. So we were there for months, and
Months. Wow.
yeah, we were there for months. And so when it was we had like shifts, so then we could always be with her. And so when it was my shift, I would go ahead, and that's what I would do. I'd put my head down. There's some real beautiful things that I seen, while I was there that were around her and so forth. And I would do what I do. I do my healing and so forth, and it was a good thing. It was a good thing. So whenever I talk about it, I could see it like it happened yesterday.
So were you doing your thing and making her get better, right?
Yeah. She was getting better, but it was still a long process. I think we're in that hospital, in the ICU, probably like about maybe a month or something like that. And then we switched over after about a month, maybe. We switched over to the this place they called the it was a rehab place. It was an inpatient rehab. So we went there for a couple months because she had to learn how to talk. She had to learn how to write and, get motor skills. And, just like she couldn't even get a pen and write, even when she was, coming out of her coma. She stood in coma for like, I don't know, probably 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, around there. And then when she came out of it, we thought, because she had the breathing for her, we thought since her eyes are open, we could put a pen in her hand and she'd be able to write and she would tell. But we didn't know she could write, because the brain is, was damaged.
God.
So, she had to learn all that and so forth. But I knew she was going to get better. And she actually ended up, of course, coming home months later. And and she's still here today. Yeah. She takes no meds.
Was that the near-death experience, or did you have one too?
No, that was hers. I did have one after that.
Hey everyone, it's Hilary, and if you followed Getting Real with Hilary, you know I believe we heal by telling the truth, asking better questions, and choosing courage over chaos. That's why I'm excited to share a book that does all of that. It's called Reviving Our Republic, written by Navy veteran Mike Biedenbaugh. This isn't just another political book. It's a hopeful, grounded blueprint that shows exactly how we repair our institutions, restore our constitutional balance, and rebuild a culture where citizens lead again. If you're ready to get real about America's future and what role you can play, go to revivingourrepublic.com and get your copy today. Hey, it's Hilary from the Getting Real with Hilary show. Life can be messy, raw, and real. And sometimes we're afraid to feel vulnerable. We're afraid to be that real self. Well, that's exactly what the Getting Real with Hilary show and Getting Real movement is all about, being our true selves. Every week, I bring you stories of transformation, authenticity, and hope. People getting real with their struggles, their faith, and their breakthroughs. So don't miss a thing. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter today. You'll get stories, links to everything new, and how to create a life you love every week directly to your inbox. You can also find my books on Amazon. My courageous and riveting memoir, The Second Piece of French Toast, in case you feel stuck in your life and want to get inspired. How I came out about my no sex life in my marriage, in my second book, Real Talk. That one will get you speaking up in ways you've been too afraid to do so, and really creating amazing freedom. And my third book, How to Stop Fixing Yourself and Start Having Fun, the name is called Your Bullshit is Your Blessing. Find links to everything and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Getting Real with Hilary, and you'll find the links in the header. So, visit, and you can also visit gettingrealwithhilary.com, because the real you is worth it and wants to come out. Hey friends, it's Hilary, host of the Getting Real with Hilary show, and I want to get real with you for a moment about something we don't talk about enough: brain health and immune health as we age. I recently learned about daily brain care from Dr. John E. Lewis, and what stood out to me is that this isn't hype. It's science-backed and clinically proven. Daily Brain Care supports cognitive function and memory, reduces inflammation, balances the immune system, and even helps increase adult stem cell production, which plays a key role in how our bodies repair and regenerate. When your immune system is balanced, your whole body works better. You handle stress better, you feel healthier, and you function more like your younger self. If you're serious about taking care of your brain and your body, check out Daily Brain Care at drlewisnutrition.com. So now we're going to go back to Xavier, and welcome back. So your mom was fine, and now I'm a little bit afraid to find out what happened to you.
Yeah, so 2010, I had got my stomach started hurting one day, and I'm like, yeah, this will go away. Popped a little Pepto-Bismol or something like that, make it go away. And then it just started hurting real bad. At the time I was married, and I had gotten so much pain. I tried everything. I thought by doing this, it'll feel better. By doing that, by going to the washroom, this and that, everything you can think of, because that's how bad it was. And I never felt the pain like that at that moment. And then, next thing you know, I'm in the fetal position. I'm that bad. And then I called my wife at the time and said, hey, listen, how far are you? There's something wrong. My stomach is real bad. I don't know what it is. I says, well, we got to go to the hospital. I says, that's how bad it is. She's like, what? Really? Serious? Blah, blah, blah. I says, yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. Okay, cool. I'm on my way, blah, blah, blah. And then I started thinking in my head, wow, oh man, I hope this ain't that bad. Because me and some friends, we just got through talking about a couple of days ago. Hey, if you died, what would be your last meal? What would be your last meal? Like what would you be okay with if it's your last meal? And I was like, man, just give me some pizza and some wings. I said, man, and I'll be okay. I said, hey, that would be good. And then I thought to myself, wait, for the last 2 days, I just ate pizza and wings 2 days in a row. Oh my. So we were laughing. So I'm thinking about it. I didn't laugh at the time, but I'm thinking about it because I'm in so much pain. Like, no, that can't be. No, that can't be. And so then we leave the house, and then my wife was like, hey, okay, we'll just go to the hospital that's right over here. I says, no. We're gonna go downtown. We're going to go to Northwestern, even though it's further and I'll be in pain longer. I says, because I'm not coming back home right away. She's like, what? How do you know about that? I says, just trust me. I'm not coming back home. And she's like, well, okay, I said, just do it. Just do it. Because I could have went to the hospital that's like 8 minutes away. So I knew it. So we had to go to the one that was 40 minutes away. 45 minutes away. So I was like, no, trust me. I know what I'm doing. So I don't know what I'm doing. And mind you, I have never been hospitalized, until that moment. And so we went in. I'm like, oh my God, he's got this appendix thing, and so forth. Yeah. And I was like, they're like, okay, we got to do this. Start drinking this, drink a couple of these, and then we're going to go ahead and schedule you and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. I'm like, damn, I am going to stay here, So they did surgery. I came out of it and so forth. And I stood a couple of days, maybe 2 or 3 days. And then went home. They gave me some meds. And I think it was 7 or 10 days later, after the meds, or even before they ended, I started getting cold and then hot. Cold, hot. I'm like, wow, how could I be cold? It's 103 degrees. It was like somewhere around there outside. Like, we're in a hot hot period of time. And then, like I said, I'm getting hot, cold, hot, cold. And then I was like, something's happening. And then like, let's call the hospital. So we called the hospital, like, oh my God, he's having some kind of infection. You got to bring him back. Bring him back here. We'll let them know you're coming and this and that. Like, you gotta come, now, like, how long has this been going on and so forth? Did he finish his meds? Yes. Did he do this? Blah, blah. Yes. So we go right back, and then they do their scans and whatever test they had to do real quick. And they're like, hey, listen, you're having an infection from the last surgery, and it's traveling up. And once it reaches your heart, there's nothing we could do. I was like, I thought I was going to come and get some medicine,
Yes.
And me and my wife at the time, we looked at each other like, what?
Like, lost mail again.
So she's like, yeah, right. She's like, yeah. So,
not good.
She's like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to keep the IV and the meds, just to slow things down. She says, but we have surgery scheduled at this time and so forth. Do you want to do it? I said, do I have a choice? I said, I don't have no choice. I said, yeah, of course we got to do it. Sign this, sign that, sign this. You see the whole thing, but there's a chance it won't make it. And I'm like, oh my God, and my wife at times is like, oh my God, like what? Like
and wings.
Right. And I'm like pizza and wings. I'm saying the same thing. Like, damn.
Have my meal.
Yeah. And so, she's sad and this and that. And I'm just surprised, they gave me something to like, so I wouldn't be feeling like that. With a little bit of uncomfortability I was feeling. And I was like, hey, don't be sad, man. Like, look, you're giving into it. You're giving into it already. You're giving it power and so forth. Like, don't do that. I know why you're doing that, but it's okay. I'm going to be okay. So we go right in. I go into the surgery, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this, like, okay. And, they roll, how they, I don't know if you've ever had a surgery or so forth, but they roll you in and they tell you, hey, count to 3 and you will be. Yeah. So I just remember looking around that room, the big old spotlights up there. And I'm like, 1, boom. I was about to say 2 and I was gone. And then next thing you know, I don't know how much the time was in between. And I'm outside of my body and I'm looking at them perform. And so I had my arms crossed and I'm just looking. I had no judgment. I was just watching. That's all I was doing. Watching and just watching and watching. And then I'm thinking of me watching me, like while I'm on the bed and so forth. And
so were you out of your body? Like you had no pain?
I was just out of my body. I had my arms crossed like this, and I'm just watching them and listening to them, what they're saying and this and that.
Yeah.
And I remember him cutting my stomach like by my belly button and going all the way down, and boom, this blood and pus came out. Luckily, he had one of those masks, one of those plastic clear masks. He must have knew that was gonna happen. And boom, it got all over him and so forth. And I remember him swearing like, "Oh shit," and this and that. And then I was like, "Oh wow, that's something," And then
infection that was coming out.
I think it was, yeah, because it was blood, but it was also like white, like white yellow. It's like yellow, so white yellow, size. Maybe it was pus or something. So then while they were, doing their stuff and so forth, then the heart monitor went, and then I was like, I'm just looking like, shit, let's see what they're gonna do, And then there's like a little panic, and they started, moving fast. Do this, blah blah. Do this, that. Oh no, blah blah blah. This and that. and they're giving each other instructions. Well, not each other, but the surgeons like giving instructions. You need this, you need this, and so after a while, so I was like, oh wow, okay. And then boom, I left, and then I could remember being somewhere else. And have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz? I know you had seen The Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's gold bricks and there's trees, and the trees are like almost like a cave, like they're real beautiful, white and green and this and that. And so I'm looking around and I'm walking, going like this, like, wow.
But you were no longer in the operating room?
No, I was no longer in the operating room.
Oh, boy.
And so, I'm walking and walking, and then, I'm feeling my body. I'm like, hey, I feel good. Like, and I start running and I start flipping and doing this and that. I said, oh my God, I can do everything over here. Like, oh yeah.
What do you mean flipping? Like,
I'm just running, doing cartwheels and flipping, stuff like that while I'm running.
Can you do that in real life?
No, I can't. Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, I can run, but like, I can't. I never tried to flip. Ever since I was little, I was able to. But that was that. And then I come up to this white light at the end, and it's white, it's beautiful, and I'm like, oh wow, like that's like the white light from when I try to help people out. Like, whoa, but this is brighter. Like, whoa, and no, it's kind of about the same. And then I walk, and then I start seeing these outlines of people and so forth, and then I just keep on walking towards them, like this is so beautiful. And then I start talking to people that have passed, that they were that I crossed paths with, friends and so forth,
that were dead, that had died.
Yeah, that had passed away.
Wow.
There's one person in particular that I had seen, and I said, hey, what's up? His name was Checo. And I says, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, he's looking at me and he's smiling. He's got this smile, this funny smile. Like, he seemed like his smile looked like he was going to bust up laughing at any moment. Every time he smiled, and it's kind of hard to explain it, but he had that kind of smile, and that he looked like he's going to bust up laughing at any time. And he's like, how do you like it? How do you like it? How do you like it? I said, man, it's nice. I said, man, this is something. He's like, yeah. He says, so wait till you start walking around, and wait till you just go around, and so forth. Yeah. And he's like, what do you think? We started talking a little bit, like, hey, like, how did that go for you when you blah, 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 this and that? Like, started talking about childhood stuff. When we would play football, baseball, so especially in Little League and so forth. And so we're going back and forth. Then I said, hey, I'm gonna walk this way. I said, I'll be back. I'll come back and talk to you. So he said, yeah, go check it out. He says, go check it out. Like, keep on going. Just keep on going. So forth. Yeah. So I walked around and I seen some incredible things and so forth. And then I came up to my grandmother, and then I was like, hey, is this man, this almost feels real. She goes, no, it's real. It's real. And then I was like, wow. So me and her, we started talking and so forth. And then I could recall, because there's so many details in there, but I could recall, she asked me, she says, hey, what are you going to do? You want to stay? And I'm like, and I looked at her like, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I read that. I says, I looked at her like I didn't know what to say, because do I want to stay? And I says, and I was like, I'm going to go. I says, because I got some things that I want to do. She's like, you sure? I says, kind of sure, not, I don't know. And I was like, yeah. I said, I don't want to leave. But I said, I got some things that I want to do. Some real big things, especially one in particular that I want to do. And I says, but I'll come back. And she looked at me, she smiled, and she said, oh, you're going to come back for sure. Yeah. And then she's like, oh, we're all coming back. And I was like, yeah, that's right. I said, I forgot about that. I didn't even think of it. I said, yeah, that's right. We are all gonna come back. And then she gave me a hug and a kiss and blah blah. And I says, okay, I'll be back. She's like, yeah, I know you will. And she just told me some things, and I said, okay, I'll be back. And she's like, I'll be around. She said, I'm always around, this and that. And I said, yeah, I know how it works. I said, I know how the human spirit thing works and so forth. I said, I got a real good understanding now. I had an understanding, but I have a better understanding. So I know how it works. And so she's like, okay. And so I left. Boom. I come back. I'm in the post-operating room, and I'm starting to wake up from the surgery. And I look straight ahead, and then there's the post-operating nurse. She's sitting right there, and I guess she sees I'm starting to move my head, but the drugs, you're still like, you're still so heavy and so forth. And she came by me. She's like, "Oh, Mr. Roman, you okay? You blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm I guess, like." And she's like, okay, just don't touch your stomach. She's like, your stomach, there's a bandage over it. She says, but it's open. Your stomach is wide open for your belly button to your navel, what have you, from your navel to like by your hip, not my hip, like close to it. And she's like, yeah. And she said, don't touch it. They left it open. They didn't sew it back. It's just so they can make sure all the infection gets out. I was like, and I'm like, what? What? Like, I thought you're supposed to sew things up and so forth. And I was like, what? Like, I just was like, okay, whatever. She said, don't touch that. Here's the pump for your morphine. It's going to go off this many minutes on its own. But if you want it earlier, you could do it. But it's got to be this many minutes. And just push it. And then, you're not going to feel nothing. So far, I said, all right, okay, that's cool. She's like, man, we thought we almost lost you. She says, but lucky, Doc and them, they saved you. I was like, what? I said, what? She's like, yeah, Doc and them saved you. They almost lost you, but they saved you. I was like, oh, my eyes were open so wide. The medicine, well, kind of from a surgery, I fought it because now my adrenaline started going so high. The monitor was like, going fast because my heart rate started going fast. Because immediately I was like, it was real. I was like, that was real. That was real. I was like, that was real. She said, what do you mean? I said, I was on the other side. I said, I seen when they were doing the surgery, the stuff went all over him. He swore, he said this and he said that, he said that. She's like, oh, you heard? I said, you heard all that? I said, no, I watched it. I was at the end of the bed right here, and I was going like this. I was standing, and I'm listening to everything they're saying and so forth. And the panic, the small panic wasn't that big of a panic, but there was a panic, and they were rushing, get this, get these things and so forth. And I says, yeah, and I seen it, and she's like, oh my God, she's like, hey, listen, real quick, when they take you upstairs, she said, maybe I shouldn't talk to you about this, but like, can I go upstairs and talk to you about what you've seen and blah, 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 but this and that. She's like, I won't be your nurse. She says, but I want to come out as a visitor. She's like, yeah, I'm real religious and this and that. And I want to know what happened. This and I said, yeah, sure. This and that. And she came up later on and so forth and so forth. And she was the only one that I told about that. I didn't even tell my wife at the time that what had happened.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even tell her, but we talked about it. She stood up in my room for like a long time, which came up as a visitor later on. And I was just like, she had to give me something to relax me again, because everything was like, I fought through the medicine, the sedate state of medicine, and that was it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what would you like to tell people in closing about this?
Okay.
What's your message to people?
I would like to say, as far as that, what I just left off as, that it's never over. even the appearance of something being over, like say someone's in a bad state, like, oh my God, their arm is cut off. They look like they're going to die, or the doctor told them they were going to die. The surgeon said they were going to die. It's really never over unless you think it is, unless you think it is. And there's always a chance for everything. There's always a chance for anything and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still do healings for people? They can go to your website and book something?
Yes. They could come to my website. It's Xavier Roman. That's 2 R's in the middle. XavierRoman.com, and you could book a session, and I can help you out.
Wow. It's quite a story. Well, thank you. We're glad you're here. Glad you decided to come back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really amazing. All
Yeah,
right. Well, yeah, so go to his website. He's got a lot of stuff up there, and you can find out more about him. Incredible story. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being real. And signing off.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate everything.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode. I started getting real with Hilary when I discovered that I was a people-pleasing, pleasant phony and wanted to be more of my real self. We can grow together if you will like the show, subscribe to my channel, and share this episode with your friends and family so that we can have a world that's more real.